So think about what it actually takes to write history.
Right, the official record.
Exactly. I mean, usually the people who get to document the past are the ones who won the wars, or, they own the land or held all the political power.
They're the ones with the pen.
Yeah, exactly. But what happens to the people who are just systematically pushed into the margins? Imagine being told your everyday life does not matter.
It's a heavy thought.
It really is. Imagine society treating your suffering as entirely invisible. The people whose pain is ignored, whose labor is erased. How do you write a history for people who have been erased?
Well, that is the core question today.
Right, and today we are opening up a radical text from 1994 that answers that exact question. It's a book called Sangati, written by an author named Bama.
Such an important book.
It really is. She is an Indian Dalit Christian woman from the Periyar community. The text was originally written in Tamil, and the title itself, Sangati, has a few different meanings.
Yeah, it translates roughly to events or like news.
Right, but it also carries this connotation of everyday gossip, which I love. And what we're going to see today is how this book just completely shatters the established rules of literature.
It breaks all of them.
It does. It tells the true, unvarnished story of Dalit women. But before we get into it, we need to state our mission for this deep dive.
We definitely do.
We are impartially exploring the social, political, and feminist theories presented in this text. We're not endorsing specific political viewpoints here. We are just seeking to understand the harsh realities and incredible resilience these women face.
Exactly. We're looking objectively at the pain and the power of this community.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to really get into Sangati, you almost have to, unlearn how to read a novel.
You really do.
Right. Because when you pick up a traditional piece of Western literature, you are handed a very specific map.
Like a Charles Dickens book or Jane Eyre.
Yes, exactly like Jane Eyre. In those books, there is a solitary hero. Everything revolves around one person's individual success or their psychological journey.
You watch them overcome obstacles and find love.
Right, and the plot moves forward in this clean, straight line. But Bama completely rejects that structure. There is no single hero here.
No dramatic climax, really, either.
No linear plot at all.
Because, well, that traditional structure is rooted in bourgeois privilege. The idea of the solitary individual, someone who has the time and space to just focus on their own internal development, that's a luxury.
It really is a luxury.
So Bama writes what we call an autoethnography.
Which sounds like a really dense academic term.
It does sound dense, yeah. But it essentially just means a text where personal memory is completely inseparable from collective history.
So, the story of one woman is the story of the entire community.
Exactly. When she writes about her own life, she's writing the biography of everyone around her.
That's incredible. But it's like listening to a massive choir instead of a solo singer.
That's a great way to put it.
Thanks. But how do you even follow a story with no main character? I mean, it sounds like it could be confusing.
What's fascinating here is that for these women, focusing on a single individual is a luxury they cannot afford. Their survival is communal.
Because it has to be, right?
Exactly. There is no I without we. The narrator of the book is really just a listening ear.
Just absorbing everything.
Yeah, she captures the stories of her grandmother, Vilayama Kizavi. She captures her mother's stories and the children playing in the dirt.
So the grandmother's story just literally becomes the mother's story.
It becomes the daughter's story. It's all connected. The hero of this text is the entire community of pariah women across 3 generations.
Wow. Okay, so we've established that their lives are deeply interconnected. Now we have to look at what exactly connects them.
And it's not an easy connection to look at.
No, it's not. It's a shared, suffocating system of triple oppression. Bama portrays Dalit women as being crushed under a massive triple burden.
Caste, class, and patriarchy.
Right. And I want to ask you, the listener, to just imagine carrying just one of those burdens, let alone all 3 at the exact same time.
It's almost unimaginable.
It really is. Let's break this down, starting with caste. This is the oppression from the dominant castes.
Which means constant physical and sexual vulnerability for these women.
Constant. They are forced to work in the fields owned by wealthy upper caste landlords. And there's this one heartbreaking example in the book, the story of Mariama.
Oh, that story is so tough to read.
It is. Mariama is a young woman carrying heavy rubble for a landlord's construction project. She slips and falls into a well.
Which is a horrific physical trauma on its own.
Absolutely. But she miraculously survives. Sometime later, an upper caste landlord named Kumarsamy corners her in a pump set shed. He attempts to sexually assault her.
But she fights back, right?
She fights back tooth and nail. She manages to escape. But what happens next? This is what truly exposes the mechanics of this oppression.
Yeah, this is where the village council, the panchayat, gets involved.
Right. And you'd think they'd punish the attacker. But the council silences the women witnesses who saw the whole thing.
Because a Dalit woman's testimony has zero credibility in that space.
Exactly. The system inherently accepts the upper caste man's lie as undeniable fact. They blame Mariama for the whole thing.
It's completely infuriating.
It is. They fine her 200 rupees, which is an impossible amount of money for her, and then they literally force her to marry a drunkard who beats her daily.
They hand her a life sentence of torture just to protect a predator's reputation.
Just to protect the status quo, which brings us to the second burden, right? Class.
Yes, the economic exploitation.
These women are landless laborers. They do the most grueling physical work imaginable, but they own nothing.
And they're paid less than men for the exact same work, like tying firewood.
Right, making them financially trapped. But the text gets even darker when it talks about class. There's this tragic poisoned grain episode.
I was hoping we'd cover this. It's devastating.
It really is. Two young girls are working in the fields, and they are just so hungry. They eat some of the landowner's seeds, but the seeds were chemically treated.
They're poisoned to prevent pests.
Yeah, and both girls die. But even in death, their bodies are treated as disposable. The narrator mentions that at the hospital, they just chop up the bodies.
It shows how cheap their lives are considered by the system.
Exactly. And this exploitation starts so young. Look at the child laborer, Maikani.
She's only 11 years old.
Barely 11. She sacrifices her entire childhood working in a matchbox factory just to feed her family.
It's just a relentless cycle of poverty.
Relentless. So that's caste and class. The third burden is patriarchy.
Violence from men. From fathers, brothers, and husbands.
Right. And we see this with the character Tai. She's beaten publicly by her husband, and when people try to stop it, he claims, "She's my wife. I can beat her or kill her if I wish."
He literally believes he owns her.
He does. And these aren't just separate issues, right?
Not at all. They are an intersecting web. You are financially trapped by class, physically vulnerable because of caste, and violently dominated by patriarchy.
It's suffocating. But it leads to a really difficult question. We know that patriarchy is brutal, but why is the domestic violence from their own men so extreme?
That's a crucial point to understand.
Right. Like, why attack your own family when you are already oppressed by the landlords? This leads us to a really tragic internal dynamic.
It's a deeply psychological issue. Dalit men are completely stripped of their agency and dignity in the public caste hierarchy.
They are humiliated by the landlords daily.
Every single day.
Yeah.
And because they absolutely cannot fight back against the dominant caste, it would be suicidal, they have to put that anger somewhere.
So they redirect it downward.
Exactly. They attempt to reclaim their fractured masculinity by dominating the only group below them on the social ladder.
Which is their wives and daughters. Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The system basically turns victims against other victims.
The men act out the exact same oppression they suffer from the landlords.
Yeah. And there's this one example in the book that is just so hard to read. There's an educated young teacher in the community.
She wants a love marriage.
Yes. She dares to choose her own partner, and her own father and brother savagely beat her for it.
Because her independence threatens the tiny sliver of authority they actually have.
Exactly. They feel totally powerless in the world, so they use violence to feel powerful at home. But I want to be clear. The book isn't giving the men a free pass here, is it?
Oh, absolutely not. Bama doesn't excuse the men at all.
Okay, good.
She holds them accountable, but she bravely exposes the root cause of their behavior. She traces that domestic violence directly back to the public humiliation of the caste system.
So the trauma just rolls downhill.
It does. Frustrated masculinity leads directly to domestic violence.
And because of that horrific violence, the idea of a safe home just doesn't exist for these women.
There's no sanctuary.
Right. Which destroys the boundary between the public and private spheres. Like in a normal traditional novel, you have the public world politics, the economy.
And the private world, where you rest with your family.
Exactly. But Bama shows that for a Dalit woman, that distinction is just a complete myth. Her working day literally never ends.
The home is just a second workplace.
It is. During the day, she endures this grueling wage labor in the agricultural fields.
Just absolute physical exhaustion.
Yeah. And then the sun goes down, the men return home, they slice maybe a few vegetables to look magnanimous, and then they just go to the tea shop to relax.
They go to the shivati, Yeah, to gossip and smoke.
But the women, they return home to fetch heavy water, gather firewood, cook, and clean.
Modern economists actually call this reproductive labor.
What does that mean exactly?
It means it's the unpaid domestic work that literally physically sustains the workforce. If they don't cook and clean, the community collapses.
But it remains totally economically invisible.
Completely undervalued by society.
And the work doesn't even stop after the cooking and cleaning. Finally, at night, they are subjected to forced unpaid sexual labor by abusive husbands.
Their bodies are never their own.
Right. There is this quote from the grandmother that just shook me. She says they work all day in the fields and then come home and work until our very vaginas shrivel.
It's incredibly visceral.
It is. It perfectly captures how depleted they are.
It's what we call the triple appropriation of the Dalit woman's body, exploited by the landlord, the family, and the husband.
So, when your body and your labor are completely controlled by others, what is actually left?
Your voice.
Yes, your voice. Which leads us to the linguistic disruption in the text. Bama turns language into a weapon.
And a form of absolute rebellion.
Right, because traditional literature really privileges this refined upper caste standard Tamil.
They view Dalit speech as vulgar or uneducated.
Yeah, they just dismiss it entirely. But Bama deliberately breaks conventional grammar. She writes the entire narrative in raw, unvarnished Dalit Tamil.
Which is a brilliant political move.
It is. She uses untranslated words that force the reader to enter her world. And the women in the text, they use expletives, curses, and these really explicit sexual references.
Like the insult mundae.
Yes, exactly. Which basically means a shaven-headed widow, right? It's a huge insult.
It carries centuries of patriarchal stigma.
So what does this all mean? Like, are they just swearing because they are angry, or is there something deeper happening here?
Oh, there is definitely something deeper. It is a brilliant defense mechanism.
How so?
Think about it. For women who have never known their bodies as sources of sexual pleasure, only as sites of assault and forced obligation, using explicit obscenities is a bitter way to process their trauma.
Wow. So they are weaponizing the very anatomy used to degrade them.
Exactly. It is a language of insurrection.
That makes so much sense. I mean, if you can't win a physical fight against an abusive husband, you can at least run into the street and scream obscenities to publicly shame him.
Loud arguments are often their only weapon.
It completely decolonizes and democratizes literature. But here's the thing that really surprised me about this deep dive.
What's that?
Despite all this heavy trauma, the language is raw and defiant, and it points to this shocking truth. These women vibrate with agency.
They really do. The book is not just about suffering.
No, it's a loud, vibrant celebration of survival, an unbreakable sisterhood. Bama actually points out some structural freedoms Dalit women possess that wealthy, upper caste women often do not.
Which is a huge paradigm shift for a lot of readers.
Yeah. For example, they do not have a dowry system. Upper caste families get ruined by dowry debt, but the pariah community has a bride price instead.
The groom's family pays the bride's family.
Exactly. Plus, there is social acceptance of widow remarriage and divorce. And because they earn their own wages, they don't have to hold out their hands to their husbands for every single penny.
They have a degree of economic autonomy.
Right. And that autonomy fuels their defiant humor. The book is actually hilarious in spots.
The humor is definitely a survival tactic.
Like the story of Samuga Kizavi. Oh my goodness, this is amazing. She's this older woman, right?
Yes, with a very fiery temper.
And a cruel landlord beats a Dalit child just for touching his water pot. Samuga Kizavi can't physically fight the landlord, so what does she do?
She waits for him to leave.
She waits for him to leave, and then she walks over and literally pees in his drinking water pot.
It's the ultimate act of petty revenge.
It's incredible, and she brags about it to the whole street. And then there's Bakiyam. She goes into the serious male-dominated church.
With a live chicken.
Yes, a live, aggressively flapping chicken. It gets loose, causes absolute chaos in the church, boys diving over pews.
And the priest is just furious.
Furious, but Bakiyam just remains perfectly calm, bows to the priest amidst the chaos, and walks away. It's so funny.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that humor isn't just for laughs.
What is it for, then?
It is pure survival. The novel is ultimately a massive celebration of how Dalit women keep each other alive.
Through sharing food, comforting the abused, and singing these labor songs that just ruthlessly mock their husbands.
Their solidarity is truly unbreakable.
It is, and when you look at how these women survive, it completely shatters the way the modern world usually talks about women's rights.
It totally reframes feminism.
Right. Let's compare this to mainstream feminism. Like, Western second wave feminism often focus on middle-class women fighting for the right to leave the house and enter the workforce.
Fighting to break the glass ceiling.
Exactly. But for Dalit women, the right to work is a sick joke.
They already work to the point of death in the fields.
Right. Their goal isn't corporate advancement. It's just surviving physical exhaustion and violence.
Sort of a basic sustenance.
And even liberal Indian feminism misses the mark. They focus heavily on voting rights as the ultimate empowerment. But the book shows this hilarious, tragic election scene.
Oh, where they are herded into the polling station.
The political system completely ignores them normally, but on election day, they need their numbers. So the women get in the booth and just stamp random boxes.
Because the system hasn't educated them on what the vote even means.
Right. It shows that woman is not a single universal category. You cannot separate a woman's gender from her class or her caste.
This is exactly the concept of intersectionality. You have to look at all those overlapping layers of identity and oppression.
It makes me think of that famous academic question.
Oh, next question. Can the subaltern speak?
Yes. Can the absolute most marginalized people ever truly articulate their own experiences? Or are they always filtered by the elites?
And Bama's book is the definitive answer to that.
It really is. Bama proves that they speak constantly. They are shouting, they are loudly singing, they are cursing brilliantly.
They have never been silent.
No, the problem isn't their ability to speak. The problem is that society just aggressively refuses to listen.
Which is why Sangati is such a monumental text.
It forces us to listen. So, to summarize this incredible journey, we went from a community acting as a single protagonist, right?
A fully interconnected mycelial network of women.
Yes. And we looked at the brutal triple burden of caste, class, and patriarchy they carry. The tragic domestic violence born from public humiliation.
The complete collapse of their public and private spheres.
Right. And then the brilliant linguistic rebellion and defiant humor that literally keeps these women alive.
The indestructibility of their joy is just phenomenal.
It is. Against all odds, they find reasons to laugh and share a meal. So as we wrap up, I want to talk directly to you, the listener.
It's important to bring it back to our own reality.
Yeah. Think about the invisible labor in your own life, or the labor of those around you.
The work that sustains us but goes completely unpaid and unnoticed.
Right. How often do we value people solely by their economic output while completely ignoring the emotional and domestic heavy lifting that keeps our communities from collapsing?
We need to acknowledge that hidden labor.
We really do. And I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over. If literature has historically been a polished tool for the powerful, what other entirely brilliant, complex worlds of human experience are currently lost in the undocumented gossip, the daily complaints, and the loud laughter of the working poor right in your own city?